This conference will now be recorded.
Okay, good. So today's topic is something that is, I find it interesting. I'm a little bit mathematically inclined, so maybe that's why I enjoy this. But the question is, December 4 or 5, why start asking for rain then? Meaning, we are Jews. We follow a lunar calendar. We have our Jewish months, lunar months, and everything that we do is based on our lunar calendar. All of our holidays, everything is based on our lunar calendar. We don't even count days like anyone else. I mean, we're so weird, right? I mean, everyone else, their day starts at 12 midnight or 12:01. Our day begins with sundown. That's where the day begins. And then, right? So why is it that all of a sudden, when it comes to this halacha of including the rains in our tefillah and are asking for the rains, all of a sudden this now starts at December 4, December 5. And why does it move between December 4 and 5? Oh, it's based on the leap year. Like, what are we talking about? Yes. Oh. Okay. Good. Yes, what are you going to say, Steve?
I have one more question.
Please.
We have two requests for prayers, but they're not synchronized. Why did we start with?
Okay, so we don't have okay, so Steve said, and how come we actually don't have two requests for prayer? We have two mentions of prayer, right? Mashiva Ruach is a mentioning of God's powerful reigns. So that we start, yeah, okay. So, that the Gemara says we start mentioning the rain at the time of the rainy season beginning, but we don't ask for the rain until we need the rain. Okay, so let's back up just a little bit. Okay, let's begin with the first source that we have, which is Laws of Sanctification, the New Moon, Halacha Aleph. This is Rambam. I should have written that. I did not. Chodshei, we have it both in Hebrew and in English. Chodshei Hashana, the months of the year, Heim Chodshei Levana, they are the lunar months. Shene'amar, as it says, Olat Chodesh Bichadsho, the burnt offering, the Olah of the month is when it is nitchadesh, when it is renewed, right? In Hebrew, the word for Chodesh the word for month is Chodesh. Same word, same letters as Chadash. What does Chadash mean? New. Because the moon renews itself in terms of our perspective of it. The solar year is measuring our orbit around the sun. In 365, we'll see how much exactly, 365 days. The lunar months is the moon's orbit around us. It disappears from view and then it returns to view. Okay? So we go by that. As the Gemara says, Kach Amru Chachamim, as the Rama continues, our sages have said, Hashem showed Moshe in this prophecy, Demut Levana, the appearance of the moon, and said, Kazer Re'eh V'Kadesh. When you see it like that, that's the time to sanctify the new moon. Vashanim, years, Shanim B'chashim Heim Shnei HaChama, Shneimar Shemor Et Chodesh Aviv. Oh, but our years take into account the solar year. Okay? That's going to cause some problems, but that takes into account the solar year. Let's see that pasuk. Shemor et chodesh ha'aviv. Keep that month of spring. Vasita Pesach. And make Pesach laHashem Elokecha. So just one second. V'asei Pesach, and make Pesach for Hashem your God. Ki b'chodesh ha'aviv, because in the month of spring, Hashem Elokecha hotziacha shelekecha miMitzrayim laila. God took you out of Egypt in the month of spring. Okay, so Pesach needs to be in the month of Nisan. The problem is, as we'll see in a moment, the solar year is 11 days longer than the lunar year, roughly 365 and 354. We'll soon see that roughly got the world into trouble. But we'll just say simply now 365, 354. Solar year 365, lunar year 354. Discrepancy of 11 days. So if we have Pesach in Nisan, and then we have Pesach next year in Nisan, it's going to be 11 days earlier. Next year, 11 days earlier. Next year, 11 days earlier. Pretty soon, it's not going to be keep the month of spring and make the Passover offering to the Lord. Pesach will no longer be in the spring. Actually, Islam also follows a lunar calendar without making any adjustments, and their holidays keep traveling back 11 days and change every year. So there, let's say Ramadan might have started in the spring, but then it's winter, then it's fall, then it's summer, then it's spring again. Now, briefly, one of the understandings and why we have to adjust our lunar calendar to the actual season is because we view that which happens in this physical world is a reflection of spiritual energy, spiritual availability. It's a reflection of what's going on in this spiritual world. Pesach, Exodus, Egypt took place during the time of spring. Spring is a time of renewal, of taking that which was dormant and it comes to life. That's what Pesach is. Therefore, it happened when that spiritual energy was available for that. And we know when the spiritual energy is available when we see the reflection down here where the dormant winter is starting to blossom and starting to sprout. Therefore, we can only celebrate Pesach in the time where that spiritual energy is evident, is there. Yes, Steve?
That's fine, depending on where you are in the world.
Eretz Yisrael. Say no more. Steve said it depends where you are in the world. Well, where we're supposed to be is the land of Israel. Okay. So therefore, what we do is we adjust our lunar calendar to the solar calendar. And we do that by 7 out of every 19 years. We have an extra month. We have a 13th month. We have an Adar Bet. Just do the math quickly, right? In 19 years, if you lost 11 days in every year of 19 years, so 10 times 19 is 190. 11 will be 209. We're adding on 7 years out of that 19. We're adding on an extra month. A month is about 30 days, so that we have 210, 209. We are all aligned. And that's why we are on a set 19-year cycle. And just like when you're your Hebrew and English birthday will coincide every 19 years. Other than that, it's off and off. 19, 38, etc. Okay? So that is 57, 76, 95, right? All, please God, we all reach there, right? That's when our birthdays will all coincide. Okay. The question remains, why, in this case, are we going to be following the solar year and not the usual chodashim that we follow? So, as was mentioned, the idea, well, this is asking for rain. Rain, not mentioning rain, but asking for rain. Rain is not based upon our lunar calendar. It doesn't get a jump start 7 out of every 19 years. Rain is a purely seasonal issue, need. And therefore, it makes sense that it should be aligned with the seasons. We'll soon see how that alignment works. but it should be aligned with the seasons. In Israel, it's aligned with the Hebrew date. They start on the 7th of the month of Cheshvan. Every year they start to ask for the rain. The reason being that in Israel, they need the rain a lot more desperately than we needed it in ancient Babylon. I'll get there soon. Okay? Therefore, in Israel, you don't want to ask for it during Sukkot. Why not? You're outside, and the Gemara says if it rains on Sukkot, it can be compared to a servant bringing a pitcher of water to his master, and the master taking it and dumping it on the head of the servant. We're offering our service to Hashem. We're going out to fulfill the mitzvah of Sukkah, and what does he do? He dumps some water on our head. So you don't want to ask for it on Sukkot. Why don't we ask for it right after Sukkot? Good. To give our travelers 2 weeks' time to get back home. We don't want them to get all soaked on the way there, on the way back home. So therefore, in Israel, we start asking 2 weeks. We still see you. We start asking 2 weeks after Sukkot, and that way, you can't just sneak in when you come late. I saw you. Right? That way, right? So there's no siman klal, there's no sign of this curse on Sukkot. 2 weeks to get home, we start asking for the rain. When do we stop asking for the rain? Pesach. Passover. Well, why don't we keep on asking until the end of the rainy season? Same idea. People are traveling to Yerushalayim, so we don't want to be asking for the rain when it's no longer something that would be beneficial. So therefore, in Israel, we start as soon as we can. We stop based on the holidays because of traveling to Jerusalem, pilgrimage, traveling. But it starts when it's going to be a need for it, and what was established when Galut began, when exile began with the Babylonian exile. Therefore, this was set for the needs of the community that were in exile, which meant that we're in Babylon. And that is how it was established, and that is how we continue.
Why wouldn't it start 2 weeks before Pesach?
Oh, okay. So Steve's asking a good question. If we don't start till 2 weeks after Pesach, after Sukkot, to give all the travelers a chance to get home nice and dry, so why don't we stop 2 weeks before Pesach to give all the travelers a chance to get there nice and dry? Good. That's a question that is asked. An answer that I heard to that question is as follows. When I'm going to do something, I'm excited about it. All right? So if I get a little wet on the way to Jerusalem for Pesach, I got a little wet. But then I had Pesach, and it was so uplifting, it was so beautiful. Right? It's not going to deter me in the future. But after I've had my high, now I'm traveling home, and now I get all soaked. So what's left in my mind is, last time I went to Jerusalem, gosh, traveling home, kids, it's terrible. It's crazy. Mud, kids crying. It was geferlich. It was ridiculous. It was a calamity, right? And that might deter me, right? Going to do something full of energy happens on the way, no big deal. Ex post facto, it's different. Yes, Dov.
What if before Pesach and it's substantial rain, the people are going to have trouble getting anywhere?
But like I said, their excitement about getting there will give them the ometz, will give them that perseverance. Okay, so let's see how we get to where we get to. Halacha 2 of the Rambam, both in Hebrew and in English. The coming Yetera Shnat HaChamal Shnat HaLevana. How much is the lunar is the solar year more than the lunar year than the lunar year. Karov me'achad asar yom, about 11 days. Lefikach, therefore, kishikabetz min tosefet azot. When this tosefet, when this addition, added days, comes out to about 30 days, more or less a little, mosifin chodesh echad, we add a month, and we make that year shloshasar chodesh, a 13-month year. And that's called the Shana Mu'uberet. What does Mu'uberet mean? Pregnant. It has an added bulge over there. It's a pregnant year. Shiev Shaliot Hashanim Shanem Asar Chodesh Kach V'Kachemim Shanem Alachachei Hashana. Because we can't say, well, let's just have every year be 12 months and 11 days. No, we're not going to do that. Because the pasuk says, L'chodshei hashana, the months of the year. We count months to reach the tally of a year. We don't count days. So a year needs to be an even number of months. There it needs to be either 12 or 13. Okay. How do we get to December 4, 5? Let's go to the Mishnah Tanit, chapter 1, Mishnah 3, and then we'll see the Gemara, the Talmud on that, towards the end of side A.
But what do they do? How do they deal with this 13 months? I don't remember ever. I lived more than 19 years.
Last year we had an Adar Bet. There's Adar Aleph, the first month of Adar. Adar is the last month of the year before Nisan, the Pesach month. And we either have Adar Aleph, we either have Adar, the month of Adar. Some years we have Adar Aleph and Adar Bet. We have in the Jewish calendar.
But the
Yes.
whole world lives by...
The whole world, well, the secular world, not the Muslim world, but the secular world goes by the solar calendar.
So they don't have the 13.
They don't need that because the 12 solar months equal 365. Okay? And every four, it's actually 365 and a quarter. But we're not, that's not exact yet, but it's roughly 365 and a quarter. That's why every 4 years, what do we have?
A leap day.
A leap year and a leap day. February has 29 days instead of 28. And that way, 365, we fell behind a quarter of a day. 365, another quarter of a day. We're half a day behind. 365, we're 3/4 of a day behind. Oh, 366. Now we caught up.
Why do we live by lunar?
I'm sorry?
Why does it?
Because the pasuk says, right? L'chodshei hashana. I've given you the months of the year. An understanding behind that is that we, the Jewish people, are compared to the moon. And therefore we count our time by the moon. The moon seems to fade, gets weak, and it looks like it's gone. It's been vanquished. It comes back with strength. And that's why most of our holidays are on the 15th of the lunar month. The 15th is when the moon is at full strength. Those are the days of our holidays. Those are representative of our strength and our perseverance.
And do we believe in all those things that I don't know?
The horoscope?
In horoscope.
Okay.
The character of a person being born, or
Yes,
the fate of the
yes,
person being born.
yes, and not the fate, but certain character. Yes, we do. Yes, we do believe that does have an effect on a person. On a
And
person.
compatibility between people on the east, they
We don't believe the New York Post horoscope.
I'm not talking about New York.
Okay.
What about China, India, Korea? They check horoscopes when people get married.
We don't do that, but we do believe that there is there are certain effects, right? There are certain effects, but I don't want to go off onto that. We're above the mazel. Okay, so the Mishnah in Tanit 1:3 says as follows: Bishlosh mar Cheshvan sholem sagashamim. The third day of the month of Cheshvan. Cheshvan is the month that follows right after the month of Sukkot. On the third day, we ask for the rain. Shimon Gamliel Omer, Rabbi Gamliel, Omer, Bishivabo. No, we wait till the 7th. Why? Chamishas Yom Achar Chag, giving us 15 days after the holiday of Sukkot, Kedei Shiagia Achron Sheb Yisroel Nahar Prat. So that the last person leaving Israel, going back home, will reach the Nahar Prat, the Euphrates. Okay, so that's what they do in Israel. Tanit 10a, Hananya Omer, Uba Gola, in the diaspora, Ad Shishim Bitkufa. We wait till the 60th day of the Tekufa. The Tekufa is the season, okay? In English, 4 seasons corresponding to the 4 quadrants of the ellipse, meaning the path Earth takes in revolutions around the sun. Let's go with Northern Hemisphere. 22nd of March to 21st of June, that is spring. The day is longer than the night by a little bit. Summer, June 22nd to 22nd of September, summer. The day is longer than the night by a lot. Fall, 23rd of September to 22nd of December, the night is longer than the day. 23rd of December, 21st of March, winter, night longer, much longer than the day. Right? Today, this morning, sunrise 6:42, sunset 4:42. That is a 10-hour day. 10 hours of daylight, 14 hours of dark. Summer, the opposite. You could have 14 hours of sunlight, 10 hours of day. No need for daylight savings in the summer. We already have 14 hours. Daylight savings, according to some, is a good idea. In the winter, when we only have the 10 hours, let's adjust those 10 hours to the point where kids are not traveling to school, etc., etc. So, when it comes to asking for the rain outside of Israel, we need to wait 60 days into that tekufa, into that fall, winter, well, into the fall tekufa. Okay? When does the fall tekufa begin? On the 23rd of September. Okay? Since the autumn Tishrei season commences, second side now, gentlemen and ladies, excuse me, fine individuals. Since the autumn Tishrei season commences in the northern hemisphere on the 23rd of September, then 60 days later is November 21. We were hoping, I would say, December 4th or 5th. And then we're fine. We're beautiful. Now we understand. We understand that here it's need for rain. That is a seasonal solar issue. We're told to wait 60 days after the start of the Tekufa. The Tekufa began 23rd of September. So therefore, 60 days later, if only we would have said that comes out to December 4th or 5th. But it does not. It comes out to November 21st. So, even with all that we've said, the question remains, why don't we say Talamatar? Why don't we ask for the rain? Why do we wait until December 4th, which is 13 days later? Okay. So for that, so far, I think we're very clear. We're going to get mathematical in a moment. But so far, we're very, very clear. Some people, I start to glaze over when I get mathematical. It depends. Some people are like, oh, great. I was like, oh, are you kidding me? Okay, so the reason why we're going by the season, by the solar year, is because this is rain. And rain goes by the seasons. In Israel, they need it right away. We don't want them to get drenched on the way home from Sukkot. We wait for the 15th day, giving everybody 2 weeks to travel home. Zion, the 7th day of Cheshvan, they start to ask for the rain. We follow the need of the exile. That was ancient Babylon, Bavel, and that was 60 days into the autumn to Kufa. That is when they needed the rain to be all ready for the winter and the planting and all that goes on.
Is Tekufa autumn?
Sorry, Tekufa is season.
Okay.
And there are 4 seasons, right? Besides the music group, there are 4 seasons, right? And we go 60 days into the autumn Tekufa. Okay? So let's understand then. So far, so good. The only problem is we should be starting November 21. Why are we starting December 4 or 5? So the whole world ran into trouble because we said it was 365 days. Then we said it's 365 and a quarter, which is 365 days and 6 hours. But that's not accurate either. It's off by a little bit, and year after year after year, that little bit becomes a big bit. Let's see what happens. The Gemara Irvine 56a says, first in Hebrew then in English, Ein bein tekufa l'tekufa ela tisha v'chad yom v'sheva sha'ot umechza. Every tekufa, each of them are separated by, their duration is 91 days, 7.5 hours. Okay, so 91 times 4 is 364. 364 days. 7.5 hours, 7.5 by 4 is 30. 30 hours is 1 day, 6 hours. That's the Gemara says, that's how long the year is. 365 and a quarter days. Okay? That's all good. Multiply 91 days, 7.5 hours by 4 seasons, and the result is a year calculated to be exactly 365 and a quarter days. 364 days plus 30 hours, that's 1.25 days, 365 and a quarter. And that is how we calculate our asking for the rain, v'tein talamata livracha, based on that calculation. The problem, however, is that a more exact astronomical calculation of the length of the year is 365 days, not 6 hours, 5 hours, 48 minutes, and 46 seconds. And 2 chalakim. No, a chalak actually is more than a second. Right? And 46 seconds. As a result of this discrepancy of 11 minutes and 14 seconds, we're off by 11 minutes and 14 seconds. The Tekuf for over 2,000 years moved at the rate of 1 day every 128 years. Every 128 years, we'll see in a moment, that 11 minutes and 14 seconds over 128 years equals a day. So we are actually a day behind, right? We'll explain that in a moment. Behind, late, we'll have to see what that means, right? In other words, 1,440 minutes in a day divided by 11 minutes and 14 seconds, 11.25, comes out to 128. Every 128 days, the calendar was off. The calendar,
28 years.
every 128 years, thank you, right? The calendar was off by a day. Over 1,000 years, where you have 7.8, 128 groups in 1,000. So basically, over 1,000 years, we're off by 7.8 days. Okay. The Nicene Council, this is one of the church councils, in 325, had correctly fixed March 21st to be the vernal equinox. That was correct. Okay? Right? Equinox is when we're exactly at that point where the day is 12 hours, the night is 12 hours. Each 108 years that we explained, March 21st moved forward relative to the sun by one full day. Right? In other words, let me give an example. It made it easy for me to hear this. Let's say every 11 months is really a year, right? But you're counting every 12 months to be a year. So after 36 months, you say, I'm 3 years old. But really, you're 3 years and 3 months old. So in order to correct, you're going to have to jump forward, right? Today I'm 3 years and a day. Tomorrow I'm going to be 3 years, 3 months and 2 days. You're going to have to jump your calendar forward to make up for your miscalculation. You thought it was a 12-month year. Really, it's 11-month year. So you've been counting ahead of yourself. So you're ahead, right? So therefore, you've got to zoom forward. You think you're 3 years. You're actually 3 years and 3 months. That is what they did. Pope Gregory the 13th decided to drop the extra 10 days from the calendar by moving the calendar forward 10 days. In my example, I need to zoom my calendar forward. I'm not really 3 years old. I'm really 3 years and 3 months old because I've been counting ahead. So too, he zoomed forward. What did he do? The day after Thursday, October 4th, no one had a payday on the 10th, because the day after Thursday, October 4th, 1582, became Friday, October 15th, in a new calendar named the Gregorian calendar. The Julian calendar did not have this adjustment. The Gregorian calendar, our calendar today, has this adjustment. But Shmuel's calculation, the Talmud, is what they call the Julian calendar. So according to the Talmud, we're really, at that point, they were really 10 days back. So they called it October 15th. But it really was, according to Shmuel in the Talmud, it really was October 4th. So our present day calendar does not align with the Julian calendar, with the Talmud's solar calendar. Now, it wasn't enough to add in 10 days or to zoom forward 10 days because he had to also correct for the future. So what did he do? To ensure that the problem remained corrected, he eliminated 3 leap years every 400 years. Okay? Pope Gregory. And that's the calendar that everyone follows now. We have to appreciate Gregory. So, in 400 years, what's going to happen? 128 goes into 400 3 times. So therefore, over a course of 400 years, we've once again gone 3 years ahead. Over 400 years, we're 3 days, Over 400 years, we are 3 days ahead. So he had to knock out 3 days out of every 400 years. So what did he say? He said, okay, this is how we're going to do it, guys. On the century mark, right? Every 4 years is a leap year. We add a day. Okay? Well, we add February 29th. Every 100 years, on that February 20, on that year of the 100 year, 200 year, 300 year, 400 year, there we're not going to add February 29th. Well, that's a problem. That's 4 days. We only need 3. So he said, those that are not divisible by 4. So the year 2000 was a century year divisible by 4. We didn't have February 29th. The year 2100 will have February 29th. The year 2200, February 29th. The year 2300, February 29th. The year 2400, not February 29th. So the 3 days that we're moving ahead every 400 years, we take off 3 leap years out of those 3 leap years, 3 leap days out of those 400 years, and that way we're staying on schedule. Yes, Jan?
Seems like 2400 is divisible by 4. 4 into 2400 is 600, right?
That's, again, of the 400 years, the 4 century years,
Yeah.
we only need 3 days.
Right.
So he said the one that is, the one, so we have an extra day, not an extra day on the one that is divisible.
Oh,
So the year 2000, 28 days, 28 days.
Okay.
2100, 29 days. 2400, okay? And we'll soon see that saved the Siddur printers a lot of headache at Y2K. Okay? We'll soon see why that is. But comes the year 2100, I don't think I'll be here to experience it.
Everything will be computerized. No one's going to.
Yeah, but you still need a hard copy for Shabbos, right? So the year 2100 will soon see our Sidurim or our schedule will have to change. Let's go a little bit further. So to ensure that the problem remained corrected, Gregory also eliminated 3 leap years every 400 years, right? The Tekuva moves forward 1 day every 28 years according to Shmuel. 3 times 128 is 384. So in the century year, not divisible by 400. Okay. So since the time that Gregory did this in 1582, now it's the year 2024, it's 442 years. So we have added we've zoomed ahead, not just Gregory's original 10, but in these 400 years, we've zoomed ahead another 3. So we're really 13 days ahead of the Jewish Shmuel Julian accounting of the year. So when we need to count 60 days, we have to take into account we've zoomed ahead 13 days. We're really 13 days behind. So therefore, when we add the 60 days, the result of these alterations is that in the 20th century, the day which would have been September 23, according to Julian Shmuel's calendar, which is when the spring is meant to start, the fall is meant to start, according to Julian Shmuel's calendar, is October 7th of the Gregorian calendar. What we would call the start of the season, September 23, on our calendar it actually is October 7th. Add 60 days to that, you get December 5th. So therefore, the 60 days, according to Shmuel's calculation of the Tekufa, comes out on December 5th. But the Jewish day begins when?
Sundown.
Sundown. So December 5th, in a Jewish sense, begins when? Mariv of December 4th. That's why last night, Mariv of December 4th, we started to include in our prayer the ask for the rain. Since we begin Talam Atar during the Mariv service, it turns out to be said beginning with the night of December 4th. So why sometimes is it December 5th? Okay, so let's keep in mind, every year is the 365 roughly and a quarter, 6 hours. Okay, so when the Tekufa begins at 9 p.m., or let's say at 3, when it begins at 3 a.m., December 5th, so then we're going to start when? The night before. December 5th, 3 a.m., the Tekufa begins. We start Mariv the night before. The next year, it's 6 hours later. The Tekufa begins 9 a.m., December 5th. We'll start Mariv the day before. Next year, add 6 hours. The Tekufa begins 3 p.m., December 5th. What are we going to do? We're going to start the night before. The next year, the Tekufa begins
9 p.m.
9 p.m., December 5th, which is halachically December 6th. So on that 4th year, we're going to start with Mariv of December 5th, which is the halachic start of December 6th. We're going to run away for ourselves? No, because we're going to have the 29th. We have the 29th of February after 4 years. That's going to reset it back again. And that way, we keep going in tandem. So, 1 year, the Tekufa is early morning of the 5th. We begin Mariv the night before. The next year, it's mid-morning of the 5th. We begin Mariv the night before. The next year, it's early afternoon, mid-afternoon of the 5th. We begin December 4th, the night before. The next year, it is 9 p.m. Oh boy, what do we got to do? We have to start then. That's already halachically December 6th. We start the night of December 5th. Okay. Last paragraph. The year in which the Tekufa comes at 9 p.m. is the year preceding a civil leap year, which uses up the extra day. Since the year 2000, with the last paragraph here. Since the year 2000 was a leap year too, the December 4-5 dates continues through the 21st century. However, since the year 2100 will not be a leap year, because that's 3 of the 4 that we need to drop that leap year in order to account for every 400 years we're 3 days ahead of ourselves. It's not divisible by 400. The Tekufa in 2101 will move up 1 day. Shmuel's Tekufa is what we will call October 8th. Talam Atar will then move to December 5 or 6. That's what I said before. All of the publishers of the Sidurim will need to correct that little explanatory paragraph on top of the 9th blessing, which says, through Mariv of December 4th. Then, we start Mariv December 4th, and on the year before a leap year, a secular leap year, we do December 5th. That will need to say, when they start printing, probably in the year 2090, we'll have to say, until the year 2001, it'll be December 4, December 5. Starting the year 2101, then it'll be December 5 and 6. This pattern repeats itself every 400 years. Talam Atar is said 3 days later. Now, I haven't lived 400 years, but I do sometimes get the sense that, wow, right, it was a short Tain Talamatar this year. Right, when Pesach comes out early, right, Pesach can sometimes come out, right, mid-March, right? So then we had all of December, January, February, and half of March, right? But every 400 years, it actually will get shortened by 3 days, the amount of days that we will say the Tain Tal Umatar. Just the bottom we have the math there. Then I want to give kudos to Dr. Moshe Sokolow, who is the one who made all of these calculations and helped me to prepare this class. So September 23rd plus 60 days of the Tekufa is November 21. That's when we should start to say it. The only thing is, what we call November 21, actually, with Gregory's 10 days, is December 2nd. With an additional 3 days of the 400 years is December 4. And therefore, we start December 4 or 5 or 6, again, depending, is the Tekufa beginning early morning on the 5th, mid-morning on the 5th, early afternoon, or night of the 5th. But comes the year 2100, then it's going to be September 23rd plus 14 days equals October 8th plus the 60 days, December 5, 6, or 6, 7.
Is there a problem on the day that if the Tekufa starts at 9 p.m. on December 5th, and you're davening Marav at 8 p.m. on December 5th, would you say it or wouldn't you say it?
You would say it. It's no worse. It's no worse than when it starts 9. Let's say this year. Let's say this year it began 9 a.m. today, December 5th. But we started saying it last night at
Last night was
Mariv.
already today.
So when it starts 9 p.m., we have to push it off a day, and that way we're done by 8 o'clock. It's already that day. It's less of a problem than we have now.
Okay. It's the same day because I haven't started.
Correct. It's the day that Tekufa starts. That's the day that we will start to say the prayers, even to include that in our prayers, even if the actual Tekufa has not yet started. Since that's the day that Tekufa starts, that's why we're starting back on December 4th at Mariv. That's when our Jewish day begins, and this is the day that the Tekufa will start. Therefore, we'll start to ask, though what you're pointing out is accurate. We'll start to ask before the actual Tekufa actually begins. We're always going to do that.
Plus 10 Gregory thing again in the last
Gregory was the one who said we are really off by 10 days. He's the one who said this Julian calendar, which was 365 days, 6 hours, is not accurate. It's 365 days and 6 hours minus 11 minutes and 14 seconds. So he said we've raced ahead of ourselves. Right? Like the example I gave, a year is really 11 months, but I've been counting 12 months. So after 3 years, after 36 months, I say, hey, I'm 3 years old. Actually, I'm 3 years and 3 months old. So what do I need to do? I need to jump my calendar forward to read 3 years and 3 months. That's what's happening. We had a longer year than it actually was. So we got out, right? So therefore, there were more clicks of the year happening, right? Before I said, right? So therefore, I needed to zoom forward. I thought I was 3 years. I'm actually 3 years and 3 months. I thought I was 1 year. I was actually 1 year and 11 minutes and 14 seconds. Then I thought I was 2 years. I was actually 2 years, 22 minutes and 14 seconds. And over the course of time, right, over 1,000 years, I thought I was 1,000 years. I was actually 1,000 years and 10 days. So therefore, what do we need to do? We need to zoom the calendar forward 10 days. That was Gregory's 10 days. And then in order that we don't have the same problem every 1,000 years, he was a far-sighted individual. So he said, well, every 400 years, let's zoom forward those 3 days, and then we will be good. Actually, he was more than 1,000 years. What we say? I did the math over there. Gregory was
The 3 days for 400
right.
years as well.
It was 1,257 days later is where he realized, and that's when the discrepancy had reached 10 days.
Does that mean they were doing it wrong, like 4,000 years ago?
Yeah. See, he zoomed forward the 10 days the same way that I need, right? Because I thought it was a year. It's a year and 11. It's a year and 22. It's a year, right? So at a certain point, I need to say, oh, right? So it's actually, right? I thought, so at a certain point I say, I'm a year. I move the calendar 10 days. And now I've zoomed forward to where I really was, because the rotations are happening earlier than I said. So for me, it helped that example that I gave, right? I thought it was 11 month. I thought it was a 12-month year. At the 36 months, I thought I was 3. Actually, it's 11-month year, right? So you really 3 years and 3 months. Adjust your calendar. Move it forward 3 months. Gregory moved it forward 10 days, and every 400 years, move it forward another. It's now 400 plus years since Gregory. We've moved it forward another 3 days. So we're 13 years ahead. Comes the year 2100, we'll have moved it forward 4 days on top of Gregory's 10. So now it's going to be 14 days, December 5 and 6.
So, Rabbi,
Yes.
can we apply Gregory's calendar to Daniel and his prophecies?
I have another question.
Daniel's prophecies, exactly when it will be, that is remain TBD. To be the understanding in Daniel's prophecy is TBD, to be determined.
Why
Yes.
do we even have to pray for the rain? I understand the rain is a source of life, it's water. But why do we even have to pray for something that's going to happen anyways, seasonally? I can understand because
Yes. Some years there are terrible droughts.
Yeah, but
Some.
then it justifies the praying for it if there is a drought.
So the reason that we pray for rain is the idea is that we need to recognize that everything we have, including the rain, is a gift from God.
Why don't we pray for the sun?
Huh?
Why don't we pray for the sun to come in the morning?
Why don't we pray for the sun? Because that is not something that varies.
Oh, okay.
That is not something that varies, right? You're right. We need the sun. We need the rain. But that's not something that varies.
Why do we pray for rain every year, no matter what, even if it's going to come regularly?
We never know if it's going to come regularly. Even if it is coming, right? We pray for the rain during this time to show our recognition. Everything that we asked for is a way of showing our recognition that this comes from God. I mentioned that this past Shabbos, this idea that we say that the prayers are in place of avoda, the service, right? The sacrificial service. Right? We always had prayer even while there were sacrifices, but now we only have the prayers. We don't have the sacrifices, right? But now, right, service is my serving you. The middle chunk of our tefillah, of our prayer, is our requests. So how is that serving God? Isn't that us asking God to serve us, right? But when we're asking God for it, what we're doing is we are laying ourselves before Him and saying we are completely dependent upon you. And that is a service. And that's what we're doing. When we're asking for the rain, that is, we are recognizing that it comes. Whether it's not coming and we're begging God for it to come, or whether it is coming, it is a recognition that this is a gift from you. Yes, Bracha.
And why in December? Is it because of the season?
Because in ancient Babylon, that is when the rainy season was meant to begin.
So I was thinking the reason with the rain is in the beginning of Bereshit, where it says that the earth needed the seed
Yeah.
ready to go, and then who came after that?
Yeah.
Remember that?
Yeah,
Wind.
Rashi said beginning of Bereshit that there was not yet rain because there was
Yeah.
not yet Adam, there was not yet a person who would appreciate it.
Yeah.
Right? So our appreciation is what turns the faucet of the blessing from God. That's why we have 100 blessings a day. That's why we have this. We're meant to be in a constant, fully appreciative state. Yeah, Dov and then Steve.
I see also, we're praying sometimes for something we don't need, but somebody does need.
Okay, good point. Good point.
It's interesting that we're being so careful to get this prayer right on the exact day so that it's synchronized with what happened in Babylonia, the season of Babylonia thousands of years ago.
Yeah. So the halacha points out that if you are living in a place that needs rain earlier than that, so then you could ask for the rain in your own personal bakashot.
Yeah.
But in terms of the national requests, so there it follows Israel and Babylon as it was established. But 100% right. If you need the rain, right? So then in your personal, right, we should be personalizing our Amidah. In our personal Amidah, we should be asking for the rain. Yes, doctor?
No, I don't understand in the Shemona Esrei that between Pesach and Sukkot, you ask for Tal, and then in Sukkot, you start asking for Geshem. So I'm missing the connection with December 4th and that.
Okay,
What was the
so
question?
doctor is pointing out that Tal. Well, we say during the summer we say V'tein bracha, right, and give blessing, right, and comes the winter we say V'tein Tal umatar livracha. So you're asking why are we including the Tal at that period?
No, why don't you consider the rain request starting during Sukkot, the 7th day of Sukkot, when you change from?
Oh, no. Oh, Mashiva Ruach Umarid Geshem. Okay, good. So the idea there is once the rainy season, that bracha is not a request. That bracha is Atagi Bor Li'olam Hashem. That blessing is mentioning the strengths of God, right? And what are the strengths of God? It's Mechayei Meitim. You will resurrect the dead, right? Rofei Cholim. You heal the sick. Matir Asurim, right? And you release those who are in captivity. That's listing the strengths of God. So therefore we mention the strengths of God during a season when that strength manifests itself, shows itself. But the actual request for the rain, right? So in Israel, right, this is one of the great strengths, God. Wow, Atag Gibor, great strength of God. And we do that in order for us to recognize and feel who we're standing before. But we don't want the rain quite yet, right? It's the season of the rain. Therefore, we'll mention that amongst our listing of how God's strength manifests itself. But we're not yet asking, oh, please let it rain, because I really do need to be completely soaked and bogged down in the mud. So that's why, that's a good point. That's Steve, you alluded to that before. That's what we start to mention earlier. We don't even want to mention it during Sukkot, because then it's going to spoil our soup. It's going to get all full of water. We don't even want to mention it Sukkot time, but we'll mention it once we get to the point of Sukkot being over, right? But we're not going to ask for it until the relevant time that we really do want it. In Israel, day 15 after Sukkot, everyone's home nice and dry. Out of Israel, 60 days after the Tekufa, which actually is November, whatever that was, 20-something. But we call it, thanks to Gregory's adjustment, what we call the 60th day after the Tekufa, we're calling that December 5th. Yep. Yes.
Two things to mention. Geshem, and Matar. Geshem is more like general rain. Matar is targeted rain.
Nice. Okay, we'll call it over here, my friends. Yasher koach, everybody.
Very nice.
Thank you for joining.
Tuesday, 7 o'clock, right?
Mathematician.
I'm sorry?
Tuesday, 7 o'clock. Yes, speaker, Tuesday, 7 o'clock.
What are you talking about?
Oh, yes. We have a, yes. We have a guest speaker.